you are deserving of happiness. You are deserving of healing. You are deserving of joy.
Whatever your dream is, whatever your passion is, work towards it. And put God first. God has to be in your life.
Wanted to use the skills and the training, hopefully to advocate on behalf of the community. I'm able to say that on Chop It Up. Be prepared to keep it real.
Hello and welcome to the Chop It Up podcast, the show that's unfiltered and unapologetic. Each episode will bring you closer to finding your purpose, so be sure to listen all the way through. Now, here's your host, Carmisha Superville.
Welcome back to the Chop It Up podcast. I'm your girl, your host, Carmisha Superville of the amazing, critically acclaimed Chop It Up podcast. You guys, I am so happy and so excited. We are celebrating Black excellence for Black History Month. Yes, this is going to be our Black History celebration. And of course, y'all know I had to bring y'all the excellence, okay? So guys, this is our first time ever in the last, 4+ years of doing this podcast. This is the first time that we will be speaking with a Black pilot. Oh yes, guys, and we're not talking about the bootleg pilots. No, we are talking about a legit pilot. I am so honored to be speaking with Mike Turnbull. He's a private pilot, aircraft owner, and he is also the Treasury of the renowned Tuskegee Airmen, Inc., and the New York Metro Black Pilots of America. We are so honored to have this incredible trailblazer on the podcast. Mike, how are you? Welcome to Chop It Up.
I'm well. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to be on the podcast and celebrate this Black excellence that we are doing. And happy to be here.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy that we connected very organically as well. We have a lot of listeners, both, here in the States and overseas. And I don't think I actually never met a Black pilot, which is kind of bad because I do travel a lot.
So we actually hear that a lot. We tell people that's what we're doing. We have an organization, and it's a national organization. When we say that, we hear the same thing. I don't think I know or met a Black pilot before.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Let's talk about that. Why do you think that's the case? It's 2024.
Well, the way the industry is and like what the history of aviation is, even for the Tuskegee Airmen that were like our trailblazers and paved the way for us to get here, they weren't even able to be enlist in the military. They weren't allowed because they were Black. So, they paved the way, broke those barriers, did all of that, So it was a predominantly white male industry. And, we're just getting onto being introduced. Some people don't even know that it's an opportunity that we have. So that's kind of like our goal into exposing aviation to our communities, minorities, and, things of that nature.
Yes, but that's beautiful. So, let's talk about the 17-year-old Mike. Like, what got you in? What made you become interested in this specific field? Because I think this is like a niche, right? What got you interested? What was that catalyst?
So I have a longtime friend, which is now my partner. We have a business together, which is Flight King NYC at Farmingdale Republic Airport. But prior to starting our business, he was starting the New York chapter organization. Again, we are a national organization throughout the U.S., and we represent the New York chapter and nonprofit. Same thing with Tuskegee. It's a national organization, and we represent the tri-state chapter of Tuskegee. So he was starting the New York chapter, and he told me he was signing up, and he was saying, this is what we're doing. And he said, like, New York Metro Black. He said, once he said Black, I said, look, just sign me up. I don't even pretty much need to know the rest. But so that's how it kind of started. He took me up for my first flight, And that was the end of it. Because when you go up for your first flight, like an introductory flight, there's 2 controls. So I was able to manipulate the controls the first time I went up. And I was hooked in, and I'm not gonna stop. And I'm just trying to give the same opportunity that I got. And I recently was introduced at an older age and not so young, but we're trying to reach the young. We're focusing on the youth, but it's any age that is willing to enter the field of aviation. And it's not only just being a pilot, you could be there's other careers and jobs on the aviation side.
That is so beautiful. You know, as you're talking, I'm thinking about this. Matter of fact, before I even say what I'm thinking about, what is your favorite movie? Like, what is your favorite, like, aviation movie? Keep it in that, industry.
Right. So there's actually a movie called Red Tails. That's not my favorite, but that's kind of one of them. That's one of them because it's actually talking about the airmen and kind of the story of it. It's not, 100%, to the facts, but it's still a great movie that people could watch as far as aviation, and it talks about the struggles of the airmen at that time, because remember it was segregation back then and all of this stuff going on. So it was hard for a Black man to, just even enter the field and show that we can do the same. And then even as just doing the same, we have to work 3 or 4 times harder just because it was that stereotype, that stigma of Blacks have small brains, or we can't operate, we don't, things of that nature. So,
That's real. That's real. That's deep. Well, I don't know if you know, but this movie that Denzel Washington acted in, I forgot the name of the movie, but that movie, that's my favorite aviation movie. Like
Flight.
he was
I think it was Flight.
Oh yes, Flight. Yes, but he was intoxicated, right?
Yep.
Right. Yeah, man. That's my favorite Denzel movie, man. But let me ask you, not the intoxication part, but like, have you ever, felt like that? Like, in terms of critique, being that you are in an industry where there aren't many of Black pilots, have you ever felt that intense critique or that pressure of always being your best, especially when you are in the friendly skies, as they say?
Right. So me, as just personally, I have OCD. So like I do things to the best that I can. It doesn't matter what. Like something out of place or out of line, it kind of bothers me. So like I do work hard to where I don't feel like I had to work hard, because that's just me striving for my best at anything I do. So but I witnessed being on the airport and feeling like maybe people are feeling like I didn't belong there. And, that's challenging when it's like, hey, I could do the same thing, or I could do whatever, and you can get that feeling. I felt that before, but it's not like, it bothers me or make me feel like I have to do so much better. But it does come across, your brain.
Yeah, imposter syndrome. Yeah,
Right.
definitely.
Yes.
I think, it's in all industries. That's amazing. That's amazing. When those circumstances arise, right? Or when those feelings foster, what do you do? What do you reference?
So I hold my head high, because that's how I was taught. My family had a school, predominantly Black-owned school in the Bronx, and we taught Black history 365 days of the year. It wasn't just Black History Month. We taught Black history all throughout the year. So we were always taught to hold your head up high, walk with pride, and things of that nature. So all I do is, it's natural for me. Like, I just look at them and I actually laugh sometimes. I look and laugh sometimes, and it makes me feel good that I'm laughing at the ignorance. You understand? But I don't really react to it all the time. I might laugh every now and again inside my head.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. That's amazing. So you're an aircraft owner. Let's talk a little bit about that as we segue. How can one become an aircraft owner? What are the steps? And let's talk a little bit about the work that you're doing with young people as well. So talk to me about that. How can one become an aircraft owner? Like, what's the income, salary? Like, what we doing? How are we getting there?
Okay, so again, the part of exposing aviation to our community, minorities, young people, as the target. So it's like anyone can do it, right? You need to become an aircraft owner, you don't need much. If you can own a car, a luxury vehicle, or it doesn't even have to be a luxury vehicle. If you could own a 30, 40,000, 5,000, $50,000 car, you can own an aircraft. And we kind of show how to do that, the steps of how to do that. You shop for it. You shop for a plane, you could find anything online, it doesn't have to be brand new. And then what comes with that is like, maybe when you go to buy a car, you would go test drive it. So it's similar to with a plane. You'll go fly the plane with the owner, but you also will want to do a pre-buy inspection. It used to be $500 when I first purchased my aircraft, but I don't know what the going fees are now, so don't hold me to the 500. But what you would do is basically pay a mechanic to break the plane down, go through it, make sure it's worth what the seller is selling the aircraft for, and then, kind of break it down. Hey, you might want to bargain with this because this is going to be due soon or whatever. So it's basically like a test drive for a car, but you're going to actually fly the plane and then have a mechanic look over and look through the plane to see if it's worth what the person is selling it for. Then again, you don't even have to be a licensed pilot to own an aircraft, because one of my friends purchased their aircraft while they were in training. They were actually training to become a pilot and purchased their plane so that they can fly and not have to rent a plane. So again, what we do is we do introductory flights. We have a ground course, and the ground course is like a 9-week to 11-week course, probably like 2 days out the week. And this is teaching the ground portion of flying. This is like regulations, parts of the aircraft, communication with air traffic control, navigation, whether you become a meteorologist when you become a pilot, because you need to know what the weather's like when you want to fly, when you can't fly, things of that nature. So we teach all of that, and then it prepares you for the FAA written exam. Once you pass the FAA written exam, then you take like a practical test. It's called the practical test, but it's similar to a road test for a car. So like you're doing a road test, but in the air, and it's called the practical test. So that's basically the steps of becoming a private pilot. And then how far you want to take it is on you, how far your money could take you, how much time you have, things of that nature.
So that's amazing. So you said that the mechanic dismantles the plane.
Like what they would do is
plane.
do like a service. It's called it's a service of pre-buy inspection. So they kind of like check everything, make sure there's no leaks, the compression of the engine. Like they pretty much break the plane down, but like that.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty dope. So where do you store your plane? Because I know you can't store it in your backyard.
So my planes are at Farmingdale Republic Airport. It's called the tie down. You pay a certain amount of a month for, it's like a parking lot or parking garage or something like that. You pay per month. And it's right there at Farmingdale Republic Airport on 110.
Nice.
And my office is actually on Farmingdale as well. It's called Flight King NYC.
Awesome. So I'm curious, Mike, have you ever worked on the commercial side? So like for commercial airlines, or have you always been private?
Always been private, and I do other work as well. I'm an electrician, so I kind of didn't want to work for anyone or be tied to anyone, so I do it for leisure and just for the education part, introducing and educating the youth. But No, I'm not going to the airline.
That's what's up. Yeah, we all like freedom.
Right.
So, question, in terms of the work that you're doing, I know you spoke about, the education aspect of it. Talk a little bit about that, because I know we spoke offline about you trying to really get Black and Brown students and kids in the community to get involved and educate, folks about aviation. So talk about that. Talk about if there are any hurdles in just getting that information to the population, if there are any, difficulty, or are they receptive? Because when you told me when I heard that you were a Black pilot, I was like, what? I need to speak to him. So are they receptive when you approach them, or is there like some, restriction when you're trying to educate kids in the community, Black and Brown?
No, so we actually get an overwhelming amount of support. Like when we go to schools, we talk and, we tell them about what we do. We give motivational speeches. Anybody that asks us to come up and talk to the kids, the youth, or, whatever, we do that a lot. So, and we get the same response that you're saying, like, oh, wow, Black pilots. And like, there's several chapters throughout the US you wouldn't know about it because they're in different states, but they're doing the same thing, and it's a big deal. Same thing with Tuskegee. We're keeping the legacy of the Airmen alive, making sure that, their history, the heroic acts are not erased or forgotten about. So we do this on a daily basis. Now, we also have a collaboration between the two organizations, and it's called Helping Our Youth Take Flight. Tuskegee CBG TAI, that's the Claude Govan Tri-State Chapter, Tuskegee Airmen Inc., meets New York Metro Black Pilots of America. This program services ages 13 to 17, and what we're doing is we're raising funds. We have a certain amount of funds that we've already raised, and this is to get them introductory flights and pay for some ground courses. The only issue with the ground courses is that you don't want to just grab somebody off the street and say, hey, and pay for their ground course and they're not interested in flying. You understand? So we need to gravitate or grab and vet the ones that actually want to fly, so that when we put them in the classroom, when we're not fighting with them just to learn. So, but it's still an overwhelming amount of support when we talk to our peoples and when we go to different places and promote what we do.
Man, that's amazing. That's what's up. And you're absolutely right. You have to have the passion, and the passion has to be there, because once that's there, the sky is limitless. So you're absolutely right. So that's good. That's good. So, I wanted to ask you, in terms of, we hear all these news story about planes and the malfunction, right? Just recently there was a malfunction as well. I think a plane in Japan, or whatever the case may be. So, for folks like me, right, who would like to learn aviation, like, I know you were speaking about, hey, Kamisha, we can take you up in the sky, and I can let you, try out the control. And when you were talking, I was already panicking. I was like,
don't worry, I get that a lot too.
right. But there's a lot of us that really would like to learn aviation. Like, so what would you say? Like, how can you get over those fears?
Okay, so what I'll tell you is that when you go up in a plane, whether it's commercial or general aviation, because we're on the general aviation side with, single engine or twin engine, or, we're not talking multi-engines or jets or the Airbuses. So whichever one you do, when you go up in the air, it's not like it's a 50% chance that you will survive or whatever the case may be. So if something happens in the air, the plane is not just going to fall out the sky unless something like the wing come off. That's something different. But you see, like how I think there was an incident with Alaskan airline, or I think it's an M9, the plane that they're talking about now. So what happens is there's an event. The door came off, and suction coming in, and they, good thing I think they weren't too high or high enough to where they would have got sucked out. But let's say that happened, they were able to land safely. You understand? There's certain things you do. We practice safety. The safety checklist is like redundant. You're constantly checking over and over and over again before you take off. You're constantly checking over again while you're flying, and then like you're just being precautious on all the time. So again, something happens in the air, the plane is not just always gonna fall directly out the sky. It's not. You'll glide, find the best place to land. Could be off of a runway. It could be a highway. It could be grass strip. It could be different areas where you might land, but it's not just so critical if something was to happen or you lost an engine, right? So you're more likely to get in a car accident than in an accident in the air. So that's why I kind of tell people that if they get in the plane with me, also I value my life. You understand? So I want to come back down safe too. So it's not just you that want to come back down. I want to come back down safely too.
So what's your assessment about what happened with Kobe Bryant? What's your assessment of that situation? Like, when you first heard about it, not to get too
Yeah,
but,
I won't go too far in it because I wasn't in the plane. So, but I did hear the audio, and it was a variety of things that I would say caused it. The first and foremost thing that I think contributed to that accident is weather. The weather was bad that day, something similar like to what we having today, or it was like a storm. It was just bad weather for flying. Not saying you couldn't fly or whatever the case may be, but then what he had was something called control, the CTAF, which is control flight into terrain, CFIT. So it's you're flying a plane directly into a mounting or an object or something. So it's control flight into terrain. So he came out of the clouds, or not out of the clouds, he was flying and there were clouds. They were telling him, the air traffic control was telling him to come higher. And I don't think he went high enough before he hit the mountain. That's my take on it without being a professional NTSB or any one of those. So that's my take on it. But it was a several number of things that contributed to that accident. One of them, like I said, when you become a pilot, you study the weather, and before you even leave the house of thinking about flying, I might look at Pix 11 just to look at the weather. Then I get my other reports on weather. Then I get my final report when I get to the airport, just to make sure my flight is good and there's no weather in between airports or things of that nature.
I got you. So quick question, Mike, in terms of, because I know you said about, communicating with the command center, when you do have your private airplane, like Harrison Ford and, John Travolta and all those guys, are they communicating, or are you communicating with the air control center that everyone else is, or not?
So it depends on what your flight looked like, what airport you're talking about. We have towered and non-towered airports. So a towered airport is going to be controlled by air traffic control, and then a non-towered airport is gonna is kind of like freelance. Not freelance where you do whatever, but I'm not talking to air traffic control. I'm talking to the other pilots in the area. So, for example, let's say I'm going to JFK, right? And I'm flying there. Before I enter the airspace, I'll call them. They'll tell me what altitude to be at. They'll tell me how to go, how to enter the airspace, right? Now, and they're kind of directing the traffic, and they're making sure of separation of the other aircrafts. When you go to a non-towered airport, I'm gonna say, hey, I'm over here coming in from the south. I'm at whatever altitude. I'm at 2,000 feet. I'm at 1,000 feet. My plane looks like this, is white and blue, and I'm just describing who I am, where I am and what I'm about to do. But I'm talking to a common frequency that everyone else is on. So everyone that is coming to this airport, this particular airport, is on the same frequency. So if I say, hey, I'm over here, anybody else that's landing at this airport should be on the same frequency, and they will hear me say, and then they'll report what they're doing, and then we say, hey, all right, I'll let you go first, or you go first, or, you know, things of that nature.
Wow, that's pretty dope. Oh my gosh, I feel like I can ask you a bunch of questions.
You can, it's all day. Yeah.
Because I am really intrigued, and I think our listeners are definitely intrigued as well.
That's good.
That's pretty dope. So, all right, have you ever had any accidents in the air?
No, negative. No accidents. I had an incident to where I didn't close the window one time. I didn't close the door all the way, like I didn't lock it. So when I got, I want to say about like 1,000 feet, the door pushed open, and I was like, all right, so it's not usual, and that's not something that you want. I didn't panic, but it was an uncomfortable feeling, like, you know. So I just had to call another airport, say, hey, look, I'm close to you. I need to land and close my door. And they let me come in, land, close my door, and then I took back off and continued my flight. But yeah, I want to say that's kind of like the worst scenario that I had, you know.
That's pretty bad.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. You know, it could have gone either way.
Right.
Wow, that's dope. Have you ever worked in the military, Navy, Airmen? Have you ever had any interest?
Me personally, no.
Yeah.
Me
Okay.
personally,
Okay.
no. Mm-mm.
Cool. Nice. Wow. So, what would you say as we wrap up? This is such a great conversation, especially for Black History Month. But what would you say, you know, for our listeners, a young person that's listening and is really intrigued by, you know, hearing your story? Like, what would you say? What direction would you give, or motivation would you give for that person who's trying to find, find themselves, so find purpose? Find purpose.
So what I would say, if you're hearing this podcast, if they were hearing this interview right now, I would say try aviation. At least try it for the first time. If you don't like it or you can't stomach it, fine, but at least try it just so you can see what it's like. Because I love it, and I think anybody that tries it will love it. And for as far as being motivated, and when you're doing something, is like, don't let no one tell you you can't do anything. Don't let no one deter you from doing what you really want to do. And then I would also say, like, when you're looking for a career, look to do something you like doing, so you'll enjoy it. Like, you don't want to go to work like, oh, I hate going to work. Oh, I got to go to work and, this and that. And you're going just for a paycheck. Then you probably won't perform as well as you can if you're doing something that you don't really love doing. So I would tell that to the youth, and, hey, come look us up. We're at the airport. My number is available. Call me. We'll get you in the air, see if it's something you like, and tell your friends. Because it might not be for you, but tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend.
Right. No, that's real.
Black
I'm
excellence
curious.
all day.
That's right. That's right. I'm curious, how far can private planes go, or like in terms of altitude? Can they fly at the same altitude as those Airbus, or no?
So we don't go. Well, let me just give you an example. The Airbuses, they normally fly around or cruising at 40,000 feet. The planes that we fly, the ceiling meaning how the highest I can go in my general aviation aircraft is 17,500 feet. So that's called a ceiling. So the highest I can actually go in one of my planes is 17,500 feet. Now, depending on the aircraft, you might could go higher, but the Airbuses are normally 40,000.
Wow. I'm probably gonna ask a silly question, but
Nah,
is
nothing,
this
no
is
questions,
there
silly.
yeah, is there a reason for that? Like, would the plane fall apart if it goes higher?
No, so what happens is the design of the aircraft, how much horsepower it has, the size of the engine, it's just the actual design or make of that aircraft.
But Mike, if so, so the 17,500 feet, 17,500 feet, it cannot even go that high.
No, yeah,
Like,
yeah. So that would be like the highest I can go with my plane. It wouldn't go any higher, like if I
it
was
would.
trying to go higher. But if there's other planes that can go higher than that in general aviation. So general aviation is, I told you, the smaller planes that we're flying, and opposed to the jets and the Airbuses.
Gotcha, gotcha. All right, all right. My assistant wants to ask a question.
Sure. Shoot, shoot,
You
shoot,
know,
shoot.
it's a whole team of us.
It's all right. It's all good.
Yeah, she's in the background. She's like, I want to. We can't. We live.
Of course, of course.
All right, give me a second because she looked like she's writing it down. But I actually do have a question as well. I think
Okay.
you were one of the most interesting guests we've had.
Oh, that makes me feel good. That makes me feel special and flattered.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. But I wanted to ask you, most welcome. I wanted to ask you, and this is my final question, how has technology influenced the aviation space in your experience? So the AIs, have you integrated any of that while you're flying? How has technology really revolutionized or influenced the aviation space?
So the older aircrafts and the older pilots used to fly, like the navigation was real basic. Like they might even fly a railroad or power line to get from one place to the next because they know this one is going either west or south or whatever, and they know the towns or certain railroads run through certain towns. So now the GPS system now is way different. Like you could just punch in something, it'll calculate your whole flight without you trying to have to figure out the wind speed, the wind direction. Like it's a lot of calculations we have to do when we plan a flight. So the new technology right now is kind of upgraded and it makes it faster, easier for us. Now I wouldn't totally rely on it because if the battery goes dead or something goes out, you're not getting any satellite reception, that can mess you up too. But yeah, it's really advancing the aircrafts. Like most planes, they like even the Airbuses, they're really not flying the plane. It's like more automation, like so it's really changing the game a lot. I only uh it only affects me as far as navigation and I would say with the GPS, but as far as the other changes in aviation. That's just my
Gotcha.
personal experience with it.
Right, right. Okay. Awesome, awesome. Well, we are going to wrap up. I want to thank you so much. I have a question here for my assistant.
Okay.
Um, just allow me one moment, okay?
Take your time, take your time. And while you're doing that, I also want to say I'm an electrician. I work for a black company called Keiko Construction. We're licensed and insured. We do residential, commercial, and industrial.
Awesome. What's the name of the company?
Keiko, CACO Construction.
And where can we find more information? You have social media, Instagram, YouTube,
That one,
website.
it would be online. You could go online website. You could just type in Keiko Construction Corp, and you will see our company.
And we will share that with the listeners as well. We'll share all Mike's information. So definitely, definitely stay tuned. So I guess the question my assistant wants to ask is in terms of when the pilots are in the air, how how are they so precise with the direction as to their final destination? How do they know the destination? Like, I know it's GPS and so forth, but can you elaborate a little bit more on that in terms of they're so precise with getting to the destination? How do they know?
So I would say, like, if you just look at a circle, just say a regular circle, right? It's 360 degrees from one all the way around 360 degrees. The four cardinal headings, let's say west would be 270, east would be 90 degrees, north would be 360 or 1, and south would be 180. So the calculations I was talking about before, we would do all of this flight planning, whether you're turning left here, or turning right, or turning 10 degrees left when you get to a certain place or a certain checkpoint. We do all these calculations before we leave the ground. And then we're checking our checkpoints. Let's just say I take off in 10 minutes, I should be over McDonald's on the conduit. Like, I could see the big M, or I could see a water tower, or I could see whatever, but I mark these checkpoints on the ground before I take off. And then now I'm in the air, I'm timing, and I should see this, or I should see that in a certain amount of time. Now, that's the basic navigation that I was talking to you about. Then you have the GPS. GPS is almost like the GPS you have in your car. It's going to tell you turn left. It's going to tell you turn, it's going to tell you which way to turn on the GPS. Like, you'll see a line on your route after you program it into your computer. So, but it's a GPS that we have in the air too. So I have 2 of those in the plane, actually 3. I fly with the one that's in the plane. I fly with an iPad that gives me my backup second. And then I have on my phone, which is the same program. It's called 4Flight, that I fly with, and it gives me all of the directions and everything in between.
Wow. Mike Turnbull, that is amazing, man. I tip my hat off for you. I ain't gonna take it off.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Man. God bless your mind, your talent, your craft. Like, that's beautiful. And I love the fact that you are.
God bless you too. It's a beautiful thing that you're doing, exposing us to, our people, so that we have Black excellence going on all day, every day, and not just, Black History Month,
Absolutely. But on that note, as we wrap up, what does Black history means to you? What does Black history means to you as we wrap up?
Black history is kind of like the foundation of who we were, who we are, where we came from, where we're going, and it's pretty much our Bible. Like, Black history is pretty much our Bible to who we are as a people. And you need to know your history to know where you came from, to know where you're going. That's a saying that they say, but it's really like, you should know where you came from, and and it helps you to where you're going.
Amazing. Mike Turnbull, private pilot, aircraft owner, and treasurer for the renowned Tuskegee Airmen, Inc., and the New York Metro Black Pilots of America. We are so honored to have you on this podcast episode, and we just want to thank you so much. We know your time is of value, so thank you for chopping up with us. Guys, we will provide all Mike's information on our description, so definitely follow him. But Mike, for those folks that's listening and not necessarily seeing you, how can they follow you online?
So
or get in touch.
So we have a YouTube channel for Tuskegee, for Claude B. Govan Tri-State Chapter Tuskegee. You just go to YouTube and type in Claude B. Govan, and you'll see our Tri-State Chapter pop up. New York Metro, Black Pilots of America. We have Facebook, and that is NY Metro Black Pilots of America. We also have an Instagram, which is NY Metro BPA. And my phone number, my personal phone number is 407-490-6619. Again, that's 407-490-6619.
Awesome. Thank you so much, my friend. Happy Black History Month. Of course, continue with the Black excellence all year round because that's what we're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity. I was happy to be here, and let's keep doing what we're doing. Black excellence all day.
That's right. That's right. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. As you guys already know, please like, subscribe, and share. Share this amazing episode with your friends and family. We'll see you on the next episode. Bye, you guys.